Most men grow up believing that attraction is something they must earn through obvious things: money, looks, confidence, or charm. But if you observe human behavior carefully, you'll notice something strange. Some men seem to attract attention effortlessly. They're not always the most handsome, the richest, or the most charismatic person in the room. Yet people feel their presence. Women notice them. Not because they are trying harder, and not because they are performing for attention. There's something quieter at work. What many men fail to realize is that attraction is often shaped by subtle psychological patterns, emotional signals, and instinctive reactions that operate beneath the surface of conscious thought. These patterns influence how women evaluate strength, stability, and trust in a man. And most of the time, they happen without anyone explicitly talking about them. The Stoic philosophers understood this dynamic long before modern psychology gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This idea might sound simple, but its implications are profound. Because when a man learns to control his reactions instead of being controlled by them, people sense it immediately. His words carry more weight. His presence feels calmer. His behavior signals something deeper than confidence. It signals self-mastery. And this is where many men misunderstand attraction. They believe it is something that must be chased, negotiated, or constantly proven. But attraction often works the opposite way. It emerges when certain psychological triggers are activated, subtle dynamics that influence how women instinctively respond to a man's behavior, mindset, and emotional stability. In this video, we're going to explore 10 hidden female weaknesses, psychological triggers that quietly influence how women perceive and respond to men. Not tricks, not manipulation, but deeper patterns rooted in human nature, emotional instinct, and Stoic self-discipline. Once you understand these dynamics, something interesting happens. You stop chasing attention, and instead, your presence begins to speak for itself. So, let's begin with the first hidden female weakness, the deep need for emotional certainty. Weakness number 1, the need for emotional certainty. One of the strongest psychological triggers in attraction is something most men rarely think about: emotional certainty. Despite what movies and social media suggest about passion, excitement, or constant emotional intensity, many women instinctively search for something far more fundamental in a man: emotional stability. Not perfection, not constant happiness, but the quiet assurance that the man beside them will remain grounded when life becomes uncertain. Think about how most people behave when pressure appears. A disagreement happens. Plans suddenly fall apart. Someone says something disrespectful. Many men react immediately. Their tone becomes defensive. Their mood shifts. They try to argue, justify themselves, or regain control of the moment. But every one of these reactions communicates something subtle. It shows that their emotional state is controlled by what happens around them. And when a man appears easily shaken, the dynamic of attraction begins to change. Because the moment a woman feels she must stabilize a man emotionally, something important shifts. Instead of looking up to him, she begins managing him, and attraction quietly weakens. The Stoic philosophers understood this principle centuries ago. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This idea sits at the heart of emotional certainty. A man who cannot regulate his reactions becomes the prisoner of circumstances, but a man who masters his responses creates a completely different presence. When tension appears, he does not rush to react. He pauses, he observes the situation, and then he chooses his response deliberately. This does not mean he suppresses emotion or pretends nothing matters. It simply means he remains centered even when circumstances become unpredictable. And that calm stability creates something powerful. It creates certainty. When a woman senses that a man stays composed in moments that would unsettle most people, she instinctively interprets that behavior as strength. Not loud strength, not aggressive dominance, but the deeper strength of someone who can carry emotional pressure without collapsing under it. Imagine a tense situation, an argument, an unexpected problem, or stressful environment. Most people become reactive, but the man who remains calm becomes the emotional anchor of the room. His voice stays steady, his movements remain controlled, his attention sharpens rather than panics, and people notice, especially women. Because emotional certainty creates psychological safety. It signals that this man can face instability without losing himself, and that signal triggers something very old in human psychology: trust. When someone proves they can remain steady while others lose control, their presence begins to feel reliable. And reliability in human relations quietly builds attraction over time. But emotional certainty is only the beginning, because once stability is established, another powerful dynamic begins to appear, one rooted in a simple principle of human nature. People are often drawn most strongly to what they cannot fully possess. Weakness number 2: attraction to scarcity. There is a simple psychological principle that influences human desire more than most people realize. Scarcity creates value. We see it everywhere. Limited editions become desirable. Rare objects feel more valuable, and things that are easily available often lose their appeal. Human attraction follows a similar pattern. When something feels difficult to obtain, curiosity increases, attention intensifies, and emotional investment grows stronger. The same dynamic often appears in relationships. When a man is always available, always responding immediately, always adjusting his life around a woman's attention, something subtle happens. His presence becomes predictable, and predictability quietly reduces perceived value. This does not mean women consciously decide to lose interest. It happens on a deeper psychological level. When a person feels they fully possess something, the sense of pursuit disappears, and with it, a large portion of emotional excitement. But when a man maintains independence, when his time, attention, and energy are clearly directed toward his own life, something very different occurs. Curiosity appears. A woman begins to wonder about him. What occupies his time, what he is building, what drives his focus. This uncertainty creates emotional space, and that space often fuels attraction. The Stoics understood the importance of independence long before modern psychology described it. Epictetus once advised, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." For a Stoic man, this freedom begins with his priorities. His life is not structured around chasing approval or constant validation. He has responsibilities, he has personal standards, and he has goals that exist independently of anyone else's attention. Because of that, his availability is naturally limited, not as a strategy, but as a consequence of living with purpose. And this creates a subtle but powerful signal. It shows that his attention has value. It must be earned, not automatically given. Ironically, the moment a man stops organizing his life around gaining someone's attention is often the moment he becomes far more interesting to them. Because independence creates mystery, and mystery naturally invites curiosity. But independence alone is not always enough to sustain attraction. Because even when a man maintains space and autonomy, women are constantly observing something else, something more subtle. His voice, his posture, and the quiet energy of his presence. Weakness number 3, The power of voice and presence. Long before a man explains who he is, people are already forming impressions about him. Not from his achievements, not from his stories, but from something much more immediate. His voice, his posture, and the quiet energy of his presence. Human beings are remarkably sensitive to these signals. A calm, steady voice often communicates confidence more clearly than any words themselves. Slow speech suggests control. A grounded tone suggests emotional stability. And both signals subconsciously communicate leadership. This is why two men can say the exact same sentence yet produce completely different reactions. One sounds uncertain, the other sounds composed, and people instinctively trust the second man more. But presence is not only about voice, it is also visible in physical behavior. The way a man stands, how comfortable he appears in silence, whether he rushes his movements or acts with deliberate calm. Men who constantly fidget, rush their speech, or avoid eye contact unintentionally signal internal tension. And tension is contagious. It makes people around them feel slightly uneasy. But a man who moves slowly, speaks clearly, and maintains relaxed eye contact sends a completely different message. He appears centered, grounded, in control of himself. And that signal has a powerful psychological effect. Because when someone appears internally stable, others naturally feel safer around them. Women in particular tend to notice these subtle cues quickly, not consciously as a checklist, but instinctively. A calm presence suggests strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance, authority without the need to dominate. The Stoic philosophers placed enormous value on this kind of composure. Seneca once wrote, "True strength is keeping the mind calm in the midst of chaos." This kind of calmness cannot be faked for long. It usually reflects something deeper. A man who has practiced discipline over his impulses, his emotions, and his reactions. When that discipline becomes visible in the way he carries himself, his presence alone begins to communicate confidence. He does not need to demand attention. People feel it. And that quiet authority can be more powerful than charisma itself. But presence alone does not fully explain why certain men become unforgettable. Because sometimes the most powerful signal of confidence appears in a completely different moment. The moment when a man shows he is willing to walk away.
Weakness number 4. The power of walking away. One of the strongest psychological triggers in human behavior is the fear of loss. People often begin to value something far more when they believe they might lose it. And in relationships, this dynamic appears more often than most people realize. Many men assume that when a woman begins to pull away, the solution is to chase harder. They explain themselves. They try to fix the situation immediately. They send more messages. They push for reassurance. But this reaction quietly communicates something damaging. It signals that the man depends on her approval to maintain his emotional stability. And once that message becomes visible, attraction often begins to weaken. Because respect and attraction rarely grow in situations where one person appears desperate to keep the other. But something very different happens when a man shows he's capable of walking away. Not in anger, not as a threat, but with calm certainty. A man who can step back when he is disrespected, ignored, or treated poorly communicates something powerful without speaking. He shows that his self-respect is not negotiable, and that his identity does not depend on keeping someone in his life at any cost. This kind of emotional independence creates a strong psychological signal. It tells the other person, this man values himself enough to leave if necessary. Paradoxically, that is often what increases respect the most. Because people tend to appreciate things more when they know those things are not guaranteed to stay. The Stoics frequently reminded themselves of this principle. Seneca once wrote, "He who fears losing something already begins to lose it." When a man becomes afraid of losing attention, he begins behaving in ways that slowly push it away. But when he remains willing to walk away if the situation no longer aligns with his values, his behavior becomes calmer, clearer, and more confident. He does not chase validation, he simply chooses what deserves his time. And that quiet confidence changes the dynamic of attraction completely. Because the man who is not afraid to leave rarely needs to. But the man who cannot leave often loses the very thing he tries hardest to keep. Yet even this strength is not the deepest form of power. Because the most magnetic men are not defined only by their relationships. They are defined by something larger guiding their lives. A mission.
Weakness 5. A man with a mission. There is something that attracts attention more powerfully than charm, appearance, or social status. Purpose. A man who is driven by a clear mission in life creates a kind of gravity around him. Not because he tries to impress people, but because his energy is directed somewhere meaningful. Many men unknowingly make a mistake that quietly destroys attraction. They place women at the center of their lives. Their schedules revolve around messages. Their mood depends on attention. Their decisions begin to revolve around maintaining the relationship. At first, this may look like devotion, but psychologically, it produces the opposite effect. Because when a man makes a woman his primary focus, he slowly loses the qualities that attracted her in the first place: direction, ambition, independence. Women are rarely drawn to men who orbit around them. They are drawn to men who are moving towards something larger, a mission. This could be a career, a craft, a personal goal, or a vision for the future. It doesn't need to be grand or dramatic. What matters is that the man's life has momentum. When a man has a mission, his time becomes valuable. His attention becomes selective. He cannot constantly seek approval because his energy is already invested in building something meaningful. And that shift changes the dynamic completely. Instead of asking for attention, he attracts it. The Stoic philosophers believed that a meaningful life must be guided by purpose rather than distraction. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I am rising to do the work of a human being.'" In other words, life is not meant to be spent chasing comfort or validation. It is meant to be spent pursuing meaningful action. A man who lives with this mindset naturally becomes more disciplined, more focused, and more self-contained. And people feel that difference, especially women, because purpose signals stability. It shows that the man's identity is not dependent on external approval. He already knows what he is building and where he is going. Ironically, this independence often creates stronger attraction than any attempt to impress, because the man who is deeply committed to his mission cannot revolve around anyone else. And that quiet sense of direction makes his presence far more compelling. But purpose alone is not enough, because even the most driven man must understand how to reveal his inner world in the right way. And that brings us to another subtle psychological trigger. Weakness number 6, the paradox of controlled vulnerability. There's a common misunderstanding many men have about emotional openness. Some believe they must hide all vulnerability in order to appear strong. Others believe they must share everything in order to appear authentic. But both extremes quietly weaken attraction. The truth lies somewhere in between. Women are often drawn to men who are emotionally open, but only when that openness is balanced with strength and self-control. Too much emotional exposure too quickly creates a different signal. Instead of depth, it suggests emotional instability or a need for reassurance. And when vulnerability appears to come from emotional dependence, attraction begins to fade. On the other hand, a man who never opens up at all creates distance. He becomes difficult to connect with, cold, unreachable. The real power lies in what could be called controlled vulnerability. A man who understands his emotions but is not ruled by them. He does not hide his experiences, but he also does not unload them impulsively. Instead, he shares parts of his story gradually with calm clarity and perspective. When he talks about challenges, he speaks from understanding rather than from unresolved pain. This difference is subtle but powerful because it shows emotional depth without emotional chaos. The Stoic philosopher Seneca described this balance in a simple way. He who is brave is free. True courage is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to face emotion without losing control. A man who understands this balance becomes deeply intriguing. His inner world feels real, but it never feels unstable. Women sense that they are connecting with someone emotionally aware, yet still grounded. Someone capable of intimacy, but not dependent on it. This combination is rare, and rarity often creates attraction because it signals maturity. A man who can acknowledge his struggles without being consumed by them shows that he has already done the internal work most people avoid. He has faced himself, and that quiet self-awareness makes his vulnerability feel safe rather than overwhelming. But even emotional depth and purpose are not the only dynamics shaping attraction, because sometimes women unconsciously test a man's emotional strength to see if that stability is real. And understanding these tests reveals another hidden psychological trigger.
Weakness number 7. The instinct to test strength. Many men become confused the first time they experience this dynamic. Everything seems to be going well. The conversation flows. The connection feels natural. And then suddenly, something changes. A woman challenges a small opinion. She teases in a slightly provocative way. She pulls away for a moment or creates a minor disagreement. To many men, this feels unnecessary or even frustrating. But very often, something deeper is happening beneath the surface. Women sometimes test the emotional strength of the man they are attracted to. These tests are rarely conscious or malicious. They are instinctive. A subtle way of answering a simple psychological question. Can this man handle pressure without losing his composure? When a man reacts defensively, becomes irritated, or tries too hard to prove himself, the answer becomes clear. His emotional balance depends on approval, and once that becomes visible, attraction quietly weakens. But when a man remains calm, relaxed, and slightly amused by the situation, something very different happens. The dynamic stabilizes, because emotional steadiness signals strength. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This mindset reflects a powerful form of inner control. A Stoic man does not try to dominate every interaction. He simply stays grounded in his own center. So when a challenge appears, he does not rush to defend himself. He responds calmly, sometimes with humor, sometimes with quiet confidence, and sometimes with silence. Each of these responses communicates the same underlying message. His emotional state is not easily shaken. And when that signal becomes clear, the tension created by the test disappears, because the question has been answered. The man has demonstrated stability without needing to prove it. Ironically, many men fail these moments not because they lack strength, but because they misunderstand what is happening. They think they must win the argument. But the real measure is not dominance, it is composure. A man who remains centered during emotional pressure becomes far more attractive than a man who reacts impulsively. Because calm strength always carries more weight than reactive emotion. Yet, even a man who passes these tests will eventually face something every man fears at some point: rejection. And how he responds to rejection reveals another powerful psychological trigger. Weakness 8. Confidence in the face of rejection. Rejection is one of the experiences most men fear the most. Not because of the moment itself, but because of what they believe it says about them. A declined invitation, a message left unanswered, a lack of interest that becomes impossible to ignore. For many men, these moments immediately trigger self-doubt. They overanalyze what they said, they try to explain themselves, or worse, they begin chasing approval in order to repair the situation. But ironically, this reaction is often what damages attraction the most. Because when a man treats rejection as a threat to his self-worth, he communicates something deeper, that his value depends on someone else's validation, and dependence rarely creates attraction. The Stoics approached rejection very differently. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been." At first glance, this idea may seem unrealistic, but the meaning behind it is simple. Much of the pain people feel in rejection does not come from the event itself. It comes from the interpretation. A Stoic-minded man understands this difference. When rejection appears, he does not see it as an attack on his identity. He simply sees it as information, a mismatch of timing, preference, or circumstance. And because he does not attach his self-worth to the outcome, his reaction remains calm. He can smile, wish the other person well, and move forward without bitterness. This kind of response communicates a very rare form of confidence. It shows that his sense of value is internally grounded rather than externally dependent. And paradoxically, this emotional freedom often becomes attractive in itself. Because a man who is not afraid to lose approval becomes difficult to control through it. He does not chase validation. He simply continues living according to his own direction. When people encounter someone with that level of inner security, they often begin to see him differently. Not as someone trying to impress them, but as someone who already respects himself. And self-respect has a quiet gravity that others naturally feel. Yet there is another psychological dynamic closely connected to this kind of inner stability. Because when a man becomes completely predictable in his emotions and behavior, curiosity begins to disappear. And curiosity in human attraction plays a far larger role than most people realize. Weakness number 9, the power of mystery. One of the most powerful forces behind human attraction is curiosity. When something is completely predictable, the mind quickly loses interest. But when something remains partially unknown, curiosity begins to grow. And curiosity naturally pulls attention toward the source of that mystery. Many men unknowingly remove this dynamic from their interactions. They reveal everything about themselves too quickly. They respond instantly to every message. They explain their emotions in great detail. They make their intentions completely obvious from the beginning. While this behavior may come from honesty or enthusiasm, it often eliminates an important psychological element, the sense of discovery. When someone feels they already understand everything about you, there is little left to explore. And without exploration, emotional excitement fades. Mystery, however, does not mean manipulation or playing games. It simply means allowing your life to unfold naturally instead of revealing everything at once. A man with depth doesn't rush to prove himself. He doesn't constantly explain who he is or seek reassurance about how he is perceived. Instead, he allows his character to reveal itself through time, actions, and consistency. Conversations unfold gradually. Stories emerge naturally. Parts of his personality appear layer by layer. This slower rhythm creates a different emotional experience. Instead of feeling like they have already figured him out, people begin to wonder about him, and curiosity quietly strengthens attention. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." This idea reflects a deeper truth about presence. A man who focuses on living with discipline and purpose rarely feels the need to constantly explain himself. His behavior speaks for him, and that quiet confidence naturally creates intrigue. People sense that there is more beneath the surface. They become curious about the person behind the calm exterior. And curiosity often becomes the bridge that keeps attraction alive. But even mystery is not the final element, because the ultimate psychological signal of strength appears when a man demonstrates something rarer than charm, confidence, or intrigue: the ability to control his own desires. Weakness number 10: mastery over desire. The final psychological trigger is perhaps the most powerful of all. It appears when a man demonstrates something extremely rare in the modern world: self-control. Most people are ruled by their impulses. They chase pleasure, they seek validation, they react immediately to every desire that appears in their mind. In relationships, this often becomes even more obvious. A man becomes overly eager for attention. He constantly checks his phone. He rearranges his priorities to gain approval. He allows attraction to dictate his behavior. But when someone behaves this way, something subtle happens. Their actions reveal dependence, and dependence weakens the perception of strength. Because true confidence does not come from getting what you want. It comes from knowing you are capable of walking away from it. The Stoics believed that freedom begins with self-mastery. Seneca once wrote, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior." This principle applies directly to human attraction. A man who controls his desires moves through the world differently. He does not chase every opportunity that appears. He does not rush toward validation, and he does not allow momentary emotions to control his decisions. Instead, he chooses carefully. He invests his attention where it truly matters. And when something does not align with his values, he is able to step back without hesitation. This ability sends a powerful psychological signal. It communicates that his life is guided by purpose rather than impulse, that his decisions come from discipline rather than need, and that he values himself enough not to surrender his direction for temporary gratification. When a man demonstrates that level of control, people perceive him differently. His presence feels grounded, his attention feels valuable, and his choices feel intentional. In a world where most people are constantly chasing something, the man who is able to pause, choose, and remain disciplined becomes naturally compelling. Because self-mastery creates a rare kind of strength. The strength of someone who is not controlled by the world around him, but by the principles within him. And when a man reaches that point, attraction stops being something he pursues. It becomes something that naturally follows him. Conclusion: the Stoic pattern behind attraction. When you step back and look at everything we've explored, a clear pattern begins to appear. Attraction is rarely built through effort alone. Many men believe they must constantly prove themselves by talking more, doing more, or trying harder to impress. But the deeper psychological dynamics behind attraction respond to something much quieter: self-control, inner stability, the ability to remain grounded regardless of what happens around you. The Stoic philosophers believed that the strongest form of influence does not come from controlling others, it comes from mastering your own character. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, the strongest man is not the one who reacts to everything, but the one who remains composed, disciplined, and guided by his own principles. And when a man develops that kind of presence, something subtle begins to change. He stops chasing validation. He stops reacting to every emotional shift. He stops trying to control how others perceive him. Yet, ironically, that is exactly when people begin to notice him more. Because calm strength is rare, and human psychology is naturally drawn to what is rare. Now, I'm curious about your perspective. Which of these weaknesses do you think influences attraction the most? Is it emotional certainty, the power of walking away, or the quiet confidence that comes from not seeking validation? Write your answer in the comments. I read every one of them. Thank you for watching Stoic Wisdom today. And if you enjoy exploring Stoic psychology, human behavior, and the hidden dynamics of attraction, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join our growing community. Because the more you understand human nature, the less you need to chase anything at all. Until next time, stay calm, stay grounded, stay stoic.